Insightful podcasts by informative hosts. Insights into Things, a podcast network. Welcome to Insights into Teens, a podcast series exploring the issues and challenges of today's youth. Your hosts are Joseph and Madison Whalen, a father and daughter team making their way through the challenges of the teenage years.
Welcome to Insights into Teens. This is episode 130, Marching Band. I'm your host, Joseph Whalen, and my musical and talented co-host, Madison Whalen.
Hi, everyone.
How you doing today, Maddie?
I'm all right. How about you?
I'm doing good. Today we are joined by special guests, the directors of Madison's marching band, Mr. John Porco and Amanda Lakis Porco. How you guys doing? Great. Thanks so much for joining us for this. I know we wanted to do this early on, and things have just been so crazy with the band and everything else. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to talk to us today. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about, what marching band is. We'll explore what's involved as far as time commitments. We'll talk about what skills are honed in marching band, not all of which are musical. We'll also take a look at some of the less obvious benefits teens gain that will stay with them for a lifetime. Are we ready to get into it?
Sure.
All right, let's do this. All right, so let's first get to know our directors. So tell us a little bit about yourselves. What's your personal marching band history? How long you've been involved? How long you've been directing? That sort of thing. Wow,
Hmm.
that is impressive. Oh, that's great. That is great. So, what do you guys do? Do you share the same duties? Do you handle different aspects of, um, I don't know, the musical side, the creative side? Can you kind of explain sort of what you guys are both responsible for? And I have to kind of speak a little from experience because I was there for the one practice and I got to see how you guys interacted with the band, and it was almost a synchronicity the way that you guys, as you were making corrections here and there, you have one person that was up in the booth, one person down on the field, and it was a very cooperative feel to it. So it was very interesting. What what motivated you guys to become band directors? That's actually a really interesting way to look at it. What obviously without giving away any trade secrets, what's the secret sauce? What do you guys have together that makes you different and makes your band special? Oh, that's great. That's great. What do you guys get out of it? What's the most enjoyment that you get out of directing band? And that's actually a great lead in for the next question is what kind of impact do you see marching band having on these members? As a parent of a new marching band member, I've seen non musical impacts. What kind of impacts do you guys see? Yeah, yeah, and I would definitely agree with that. I wasn't in band myself. My musical talent could probably fit into a thimble, unfortunately. I was a choir boy, so I was in choir, but I there was a lot of kids that were in choir that were in marching band, and I knew from that that it was such a tight knit group, and I didn't really appreciate that until we were exposed to it, and it's even though it's a competitive environment as you go up against other bands, just the fact that we were coming back from the one competition and you had one band passing the other, wishing them good luck, go out there, knock them dead, that sort of thing. And just that overall support and encouragement just blew me away. I've never seen anything like that in a competitive environment, and it was really touching to see. Yeah, and I think that's probably the biggest benefit that I think I've seen so far. And Madison was fortunate enough to experience that early on because she kind of struggled early on there, didn't really uh, find her place right off the bat. And just the band members that stepped up and gave her that pat on the back or helped her get over one of those little problems she had. It was just fantastic to see the support all the way across the board. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So do you guys? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yep,
Yeah.
definitely.
So do you guys have former members come back after they graduate to keep in touch and help out and stuff? That's great. That's that's great. That's awesome. So Madison, you had a couple of questions to ask.
Yep. So the first one's kind of vague. So what is marching band? What's involved? What should a new member just joining need to know? Kind of like the basics.
Okay. I think that doesn't give away any secrets with that answer.
Yep. Mhm.
That's great. Okay. Okay, fair enough.
So how is marching band different from other band electives?
Oh, so it's like family. Yeah. The one thing that I did notice, and it was very obvious going to see the other competitions and seeing the other bands, and it was the diversity and the acceptance. It didn't matter what shape, what size, what color. You had kids that were out there that had disabilities that were able to get out there on the field and perform and be a part of something special. And it was just so nice. And it was a relief to be able to see that level of acceptance out there. It was very, very surprising, very enlightening. Yeah, I think that's great. What else do we have?
So let's discuss instruments. So what instruments typically make up a marching band? Hmm.
Mm. Now that's is that the pit you're referring to there? Oh, nice.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about practices. So, how often do they typically occur?
So the one thing that I did notice that struck me is I don't know, don't want to say but it's a little surprising was your practices were later than I expected them to be. Was there a reason for that? Uh, That's funny. Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes perfect sense then.
Yep.
What else do we have?
So now let's talk a bit more about performances. So typically, how often can members expect to perform?
So, is that sort of what the kids are get psyched up for? Is to go out and do these performances? Because I know I played football and you tolerated practice just for game day. And if game day wasn't there that week, you really you couldn't get through practice that week. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Awesome.
So speaking of competitions, roughly how many competitions are there in a season?
Wow.
Hmm.
Wow. That's crazy.
So we haven't really talked about a certain aspect of the band, which is the color guard. So, what is the color guard, and is it really a part of the marching band? Um,
That was one thing that I had noticed going to all the competitions was the how the story was depicted. You know, the color guard was basically the stage. They were the actors on the stage, and it was almost like everybody else was there to support them telling the story. Is what it seemed like. Yeah, it was really interesting to see, especially across the different bands, to see some of the props that they had and some of the outfits that were done. Um, the last game that we went to, and it was exceptionally cold. We all had sympathy for the color guard for the outfits that they had because it was very cold. What was the last question we had for this one?
so the last one is just basic. Like, how long is a marching band season?
Oh, that's good. Okay. Wow. Right. Even when you're out, you're never out, right? Well, that was great. I think that was all the questions we have for this segment. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about what's required for marching band. We'll be right back. For over 7 years, the Second Sith Empire has been the premier community guild in the online game Star Wars: The Old Republic. With hundreds of friendly and helpful active members, a weekly schedule of nightly events, annual guild meet and greets, and an active community both on the web and on Discord. The Second Sith Empire is more than your typical gaming group. We're family. Join us on the Starforge server for nightly events such as operations, flashpoints, world boss hunts, Star Wars trivia, guild lottery, and much more. Visit us on the web today at www.thesecondsithempire.com.
Welcome back to Insights into Teens. Today we're talking about marching band with our guests, Mr. John Porco and Miss Amanda Lacus Porco. So now we're going to be talking about what's required for marching band. So I think now's a good time to talk about uniforms. So are uniforms required for practice?
Okay.
That's a good example. That explanation.
Okay.
Sorry, not doing too well with my English today. So our next question is, how much time do kids need to put into marching band?
Fair point.
Yep. So is marching band something that happens in or out of school?
Okay.
All right, so is there a cost at all to be in marching band?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, none.
Okay.
So, what are some of the challenges most of the kids face in marching band?
Yeah. Well, in all fairness, it is marching band, not standing band.
Yeah, you've mentioned that multiple times. Yeah, that'd be funny. So, how about stage fright? Do members experience it, and how do you help members overcome stage fright?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, the closest parallel I think I have was having been in choir. We would practice. We'd have two concerts a year. You never did more than two concerts a year, and when you went out there with an entire audience. So you didn't get to ramp up to it. You didn't get to ease into it. You didn't know if it was a friendly audience, and you only did it once, and then you did it, 4 months later. So it could be kind of overwhelming sometimes. So we, yeah, yeah. Well, and that's the thing. You guys have played in front of some significantly large audiences this year. I was, yeah, yeah, that's crazy. So we kind of touched on the benefits of marching band, and we know a lot of it's not musical. What does marching band mean for the kids that join it? So it's a huge confidence builder moving through. That's awesome. Yeah, yeah. So we talked about the physical demands. They're not overly demanding, but they're somewhat demanding if you're uninitiated. What are some of the physical benefits that kids actually get from dealing with these demands?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of that. That's interesting. Now, you did touch a little bit about student leadership in the band itself. What does marching band do as far as teaching kids leadership? How does it help them with that? Yeah, that's great. Right. That's great. That is great. You talk about character and work ethic. I happened to be at practice at one point in time. I think it was when Madison had lost her cell phone, and there was one of your drum majors was off at soccer practice, got hurt, and shows up at band practice with both of her knees taped up with ice on there. She's like, I can still direct, I can still direct. Like, just to see that passion in there was just incredible. That energy, and it speaks volumes to the leadership that you guys provide. So that was great. That really moved me when I saw that. Yeah, yeah, wow.
Oh god.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. So I think we can certainly make an argument for the benefits of marching band. Are there detriments? Like, what kind of effect does it have on the kids' grades? Do we keep an eye on that sort of thing? Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely see that. So, where do you guys see kids? I mean, you've been doing this for enough years now that you've seen kids work through the program, graduate, go on to professional life. Do you see this affecting their professional life and providing career paths for them? That's awesome. So, if you guys could give a sales pitch, a one line elevator pitch for why you should join marching band, what would it be? That's the pitch right there.
Sure.
That's the pitch. And I don't think you need to add anything else to it. It'll change your life, and I think it definitely will. And I think that's a great place to stop. We'll take our second break and we'll be back to talk about the actual creative process. We'll be right back.
Insights into Entertainment, a podcast series taking a deeper look into entertainment and media. Our husband and wife team of pop culture fanatics are exploring all things from music and movies to television and fandom. We'll look at the interesting and obscure entertainment news of the week. We'll talk about theme park and pop culture news. We'll give you the latest and greatest on pop culture conventions. We'll give you a deep dive into Disney, Star Wars, and much more. Check out our video episodes at youtube.com/insightsintothings. Our audio episodes at podcast.insightsintoentertainment.com, or check us out on the web at insightsintothings.com.
So this is the part of the show that we get into the nitty-gritty and we break down those barriers and actually talk about how you actually go about creating things. So how do you go about selecting what program you're on, and how far in advance do you typically start that process? You talked a little bit about it, but what's the meat and potatoes behind it? Okay. That's great. So are there licensing challenges? So now I've sat through a number of the competitions, and there's restrictions on what you can record and what you can't record, and there's copyright issues. So when you guys go about putting a program together, do you have to purchase rights to certain music? Is there a pool of music that's available? How do you manage that? Thank, Thanks to Disney, because they were protecting Mickey Mouse. Yeah, they're probably going to take my podcast down now because you said that. Oh yeah. Oh, that's funny.
So can you talk a bit about the crew and other instructors who are part of the process and their involvement? Yeah.
Some control rods in that reactor.
Yeah. So, are there specific elements you look to include in your performance that are required for competitions?
So I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and to that point, I can say from doing the videos from the very beginning throughout the season and seeing how the show evolved, those points came out very obviously from midway in the season and on, where when I was, I tried to do a multi-camera approach and I looked for transition points, and those gotchas are the transition points, and they started popping up more and more frequently as the season went on. So it gave the show a much more dynamic feel by the end of the season. So 7. Yeah. Yeah, and that was what I noticed. Every show was slightly different. Like it was almost like an organism that was evolving and growing up throughout the whole season. And it made it very interesting to see every performance like that. 7. Yeah. Yeah.
um, so how do you digest the input from the judges and relay that in an
Actionable.
actionable form to the band to make corrections?
You could tell I wrote the script. She didn't write the script.
Leave me alone, please.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I had the unique experience at the home show to be sitting up right at the booth, and I had the one judge in my one ear, and I got to listen to him critique each and every show. And it was interesting because he was incredibly consistent in his critique of what he was doing. I think it was the visuals judge. Then I had a judge on the other side, and the same thing could happen 5 times on the field, and he'd call it a different way each time. And I'm like, that's very confusing to me. I don't know how he's seeing that, but um, he dug that script back out and read it again. Yeah, yeah. Let's take a kind of a sidestep here. Let's talk about we gave credit to our student leadership already, but what goes into choosing the student leadership? What qualities do you look for? Is it a new leadership every year? How does that evolve? Yep. That's great. So what about the support that the band gets? We talked about the band parent association, and how about the school? Do you feel the school supports the band sufficiently? Yeah. They have to be supportive. I mean, they made that beautiful field for you guys that you let the football team play on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
Unfortunately. Well, that's great. I think we're all looking forward to next year's season, and I'm certainly looking forward to it. I didn't think I would be. I'll be honest with you. I was very overwhelmed early on at the time demands and just what was expected of the parents, but you see the end product, and after you see that, there's a level of pride even that I have in the what limited I've committed to it, and seeing how she's evolved throughout the whole time and what she's learned and become. And at the end of the whole thing, it's worth it. You know, I couldn't endorse it more strongly than I can at this point. So, and you guys have done a fantastic job, and the kids look up to you guys. I didn't hear a negative word about any of the staff, you know, from my daughter or anybody else that I had interacted with, and I think that's a great. So I think that was all we had. Did you have any other questions that you wanted to throw out there?
I guess all I really have to say is, do you think we did good this year?
That's great. It, is there any message that you guys want to leave us with before we go? That's great. That you're right. That is a great message to leave the kids with. She is good.
Yep.
So we're going to take a quick break. We'll come right back. We'll get Madison's closing thoughts, and then we'll finish up with show plugs and go from there. We'll be right back. Go with your closing thoughts.
Okay, so to everyone out there, I just want to kind of mention that, yeah, marching band has a lot of benefits. I've certainly benefited a lot from it. There are definitely ups and downs to it. I've experienced both. And, you know, going into it, I really was that kind of scared person. I thought that there was a lot being expected of me. There was a lot of anxiety going into it at first, but once you realize that you start getting those really good performances and you hear how the instructors, like how proud the instructors are of you, how much you've improved, and you can just, it just ultimately makes it worth it in the end, just to see how much you've improved. And overall, I can't recommend the feeling enough.
Okay, that was very well said. I want to thank our guests, John and Amanda. You guys were great. I appreciate all the time you gave us tonight. We'll have this probably posted up on Monday for you guys to see if you want to go back and see how bad we flubbed our lines on this side here. But we're ready to go for our next season of marching band. I hope you guys get a good turnout with students as well. So thanks so much for your time. Before we do go, I did want to invite our listening and viewing audience to subscribe to the podcast. You can find audio versions of this podcast listed as Insights into Teens. Video versions of all the network podcasts can be found listed as Insights into Things. We're available anywhere you can get a podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, etc. I would also encourage you to write in, give us your feedback. You can email us at comments@insightsintothings.com. We're on Twitter at insights_things. You can get us on Facebook at facebook.com/insightsintothingspodcast. On Instagram, we're at instagram.com/insightsintothings. Or you can get all that and more on our official website at www.insightsintothings.com. That's it. Another one in the books.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.